Bless up, bless all the way up. It's your boy, Change Agent Cooper. Make sure you like this channel, subscribe to this channel, and click the bell for notifications so you can be alerted when the content is coming out. I got a lot to say. I'm going to say it. I got a lot of experience, strength, and hope, and I'm going to share it. You know, I got a lot of experience, y'all, and for me to keep that to myself, that would be blasphemy. And so today, I had gave everybody the notification earlier that I was going to be doing a video about giving my recommendations about what should happen whenever a certified peer support specialist has a relapse or return to use, right? What should happen when a certified peer support specialist has a slip up and uses an illicit substance? So listen up. First, before I dive in, I want to qualify myself. My role in the peer workforce started when I was in the penitentiary in 2009. I was a peer counselor for a new direction program, evidence-based, under the Hazelden umbrella. I came home. I worked in the field. It didn't take me long to get a job in the field working at Neil Dobber Center. I took my peer support specialist training for North Carolina in 2012, and been rocking out ever since. I'm personally in long-term recovery. I have 14 years of uninterrupted recovery. You know, in the fellowship where I put the work in, we say clean and serene. You feel me? But there's different pathways to recovery, and I guess that's a good segue into what we're talking about today. And so, with peer support, I'm seeing the trend. You know, more and more people are starting to put peer supports into their grants. Peer support work, the peer workforce is starting to be seen as the special sauce, lived expertise. You dig what I'm saying? And I'm seeing a lot of funding. You know, the money is starting to make it rain everywhere. And with that being said, I've sat back and I've seen some things. I've had people come to me talking about things that have happened at the organization they was working for. I've had people themselves have a slip up and then come to me and say, what should I do? I've been there. I've been around. I'm like I say, man, I'm active in the recovery community. It's not as of right now, it's technically not even my job anymore, because I'm not in the SUD world like I used to be, the substance use disorder world. I hate when people use acronyms and then I turn around and do it myself. SUD, substance use disorder. So if you hear me say that later in the video, substance use disorder. And so I've sat back and I've watched things transpire. I'm one of those folks that's been a certified peer support specialist for a long time. There's a few other people I know that have been certified longer than me, but there's not many. And salute to them for their continued involvement in the peer workforce in whatever way, shape, form, or fashion that they're in. So let's get to it. With peer support and with looking at cultural specific services. Look, if you're looking at cultural alignment and you're looking at lived experience and you're really honoring lived experience, then you would say, well, a peer support specialist that's in recovery from addiction should be supporting a person who's coming out of active addiction and trying to get their life together. It should be lined up that way. Like a peer support, like the true fidelity of it is a person who's in recovery from addiction can help somebody who is seeking recovery from addiction. And if you look at SAMHSA's definition of peer support, you'll see that. And I'll try to put that link in the description section of this video. And so, with that being said, that's first and foremost. So if you're doing substance use disorder programs and you're wanting to hire certified peer support specialists, you want to make sure that the peer support specialists that you're hiring are people who are in recovery from substance use disorder. Because if they're not, they might not get it. They just might not get it. And plus, one of the things that I've been seeing here lately is, some people who are going in becoming peer supports who are just straight mental health. You know what I'm saying? And so if a person is in recovery from mental health and they smoke weed or they drink they drink here and there, they have a glass of wine and they're supporting a peer, and that peer is looking at that behavior, and peer supports model. They're models, right? And so that person that they're trying to help tries to do it their way, they might crash and burn. You might even see a fatality when you're scrolling on your cell phone. Y'all know what I'm talking about. And so, with that being said, that's first and foremost. You want to make sure that the alignment is there. The fidelity is prioritized of peer support. You know what I'm saying? Just like when you look at reentry, a person who is providing services for somebody coming out the penitentiary, if they ain't never did time in prison and they ain't never re-entered society from prison, is that true? Is that true peer support when you look at fidelity? So that's first and foremost, making sure that the lived experience lines up. So if somebody's in recovery from addiction, now we got something to work with. So if a person is working for you at your organization, and this person is in recovery from addiction, and they have a relapse back to using, here comes my recommendation for what should happen next. So first and foremost, let's just say, if that person has had a relapse, then and this is my opinion. This is my opinion, because there's really no concrete layout of how this is supposed to be. Just to be clear, it's not concrete. Like, it's different everywhere you go. You know what I'm saying? Like, even when you look at the peer support specialist page, the springboard or whatever, when you look at the ethics, as far as like how to adhere to the ethics, it's basically violation of the ethics is dependent upon, the guidelines of the actual organization that you work for. So it's not even dependent upon, it's not solely dependent upon the UNC, right? And so with that being said, with your organization, how you want to address an ethical dilemma, how you want to address that ethical dilemma. If you in solidarity with me and you like how I'm rocking and rolling, then listen up. If a person has had return to use, the first and foremost, they're operating outside of the scope of their practice if they have had a relapse. Sad but true, because one of the requirements to take the peer support specialist training is you have to have 9 months of uninterrupted recovery to take the training, and you got to have a year. You have to have a year to be certified. So once you have used an illicit substance, your clock restarts. Now your clock restarts. These are my recommendations. Your clock restarts. So the next thing, you probably like, well, what about the person's job? They got a job. How are they going to pay their bills? All right, cool. I thought this out too, because like I told you, I've been around and I done seen different things. I had people from other organizations come to me and tell me about stuff that they experiencing at their organization. I've had leaders of organizations reach out to me, leaders who wasn't in recovery, reach out to me and say, what should I do if a person had a return to use? You know what I'm saying? Because like the community ain't but so big, the recovery community know everybody and the word travels around. So people have reached out to see like what they should do next, you heard? And so what about their job? How do they pay their bills? Well, this is where what I'm putting together as a policy myself for Operation Gateway, because I definitely look at hiring certified peer support specialists, because a lot of people coming out of prison have substance use disorder. And so I'm making sure we hiring folks that's in recovery from addiction that's going to be the change agents with Operation Gateway. And both of the staff right now are in recovery from addiction. Me and L Boogie, that's Lindsay. We both in recovery from addiction. We both certified community health workers and certified peer support specialists. And so what I'm looking to do, and I just hired a consultant to help with it, to help draft this. Our policy is going to have a severance pay. It's going to be like severance pay. Now, I'm no expert with HR. You know what I'm saying? I'm no expert with HR, but I'm hiring a consultant, and we're going to do something. I don't even know if we're going to call it severance pay, but what we're going to do is, once that person has admitted to relapse, at that point in time, that person will no longer be doing the work, and that person will get paid for 30 days as they work on their next steps. Now, their next steps could be getting into treatment if they feel they need to get into treatment. It can be them, getting connected to counseling and therapy or whatever they need to get connected to. And it will definitely consist of them finding another job. You know what I'm saying? And the good thing about it is being connected the way that I am, I have other sectors who I can refer a person to get gainful employment. And I'm on the board at Just Economics. So I ain't trying to send nobody somewhere to where they ain't making a living wage, you dig? And so that's what my recommendation is. When somebody has a return to use, especially a peer support specialist that's in recovery from addiction, that person their job has to stop, but then pay them for 30 days as they go to get their act together. And that includes finding another job. Because my opinion is that a person who has had a slip up has some chinks in their armor. You dig what I'm saying? And they got some stuff that they need to continue to work on. And if your recovery is what's qualifying you to do the job, then your recovery got to be A1. You see what I'm saying? Like, and if your recovery is A1, that's not happening. And so you might have to just back up a little bit, revisit some things and work on some things to get yourself back together. And one of the things I learned when I was in school is that you want to always remember you never work harder than the client. You got to practice self-care, all the wisdom that has been passed down from the predecessors. And so we want to remember that, man, we can't be effective peer support specialists if we ain't taking care of ourselves. And so we can't want to be in the field if there's chinks in our armor. We got to make sure we strong, because the peers that we working with are coming from a dark place. They coming from a lonely place. They coming from a what do they call, dereliction, and we are the anchors. You dig? So we got to have our stuff together, man. And this is my recommendation. So whoever's watching this video, man, pump this out to everybody you know, anybody in leadership that's doing work in substance use disorder space, that's wanting to use peer support specialists, because this model has to happen that way. I respect peer support as a professional. You know what I'm saying? Some people was wanting to look at us as paraprofessionals, but I don't even like that word. I'm not having that word. We are not paraprofessionals, because our recovery is our superpower. You see what I'm saying? Our recovery is our superpower. And if our recovery is our superpower, we got to make sure we don't play around with the word recovery. That's why when I check in with my staff, it ain't just talking about the ins and outs of the program. We read meditation books before we even meet. Like when somebody come in the door, we busting open a devotional and we checking in like that. That's how we rolling, because recovery is our superpower. If it had not been for the Lord on my side, who introduced me to recovery, I would have lost my mind. So I take recovery very serious. And when someone has had a relapse, there was a chink in their armor, and we want to make sure we deal with their armor so that they can get back out in the battlefield in due time, but not immediately. I'm not for that immediately right back into it. So that's my take on it, man. There may be some people who want to chime in, comment, please do. This is a conversation that needs to be had, because like I say, the peer workforce is starting to pop off more and more. There's more grants. There's a whole bunch of people wanting to get into the peer support field. People that you help, they're watching you. You're the anchor. That's what I'm telling you. You're the anchor that they're watching. So if they're watching you like that, they want to be just like you. So you want to make sure you're on point. You dig what I'm saying? And so for y'all bosses out there, just know, like, my recommendation, like I say, if somebody has a relapse, you pay them for 30 days. I'm implementing that into a policy to where we're going to pay them for 30 days while they can find another job and get into treatment, if that's what they need. But typically, like I say, man, in recovery, we practice honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. And a person who's struggling in their recovery, if they solid, they gon' just be straight up about it. Especially a person that's wanting to be in this field, because we understand that integrity is one of the main principles that we got to have on point if we're going to be effective peer supports in the dark world that we live in right now. My name is Change Agent Cooper. I'm not the answer, but I'm for daggone sure the alternative. Bless up.